Right then, we are live for the second time because, as with last week, it kicked me off within the first couple of minutes. So hopefully this will keep running so you will be able to see the whole episode. This is episode 16 of the Tempest Rising podcast, and today we're going to be looking at the cure for motivation. I hate seeing myself on camera because I can see how wonky my eyebrows are. Anyway, so take two. And looking at motivation. So two of the biggest things people always say to me that holds them back from getting results are time and motivation. I think if I had £1 for every time someone told me they didn't feel motivated, I could probably buy a Caribbean island. But here's the thing, motivation is complete and utter bullshit. And it's something I talk about in my new book. I mention how motivation is actually detrimental to your progress because not having motivation effectively becomes an excuse not to do things. So whilst you're constantly searching for motivation as a means of getting something done, that search in itself is actually preventative because motivation is fleeting and it's superficial, so you can't rely on it. And anyone can get amped up for 5 minutes and do something, but can you actually sustain that and do it for 5 months or 5 years? Because those are the things that count. You shouldn't be relying on motivation, because if you do, you're only ever going to do things in short, sporadic bursts. And if you've been listening to my stuff for a while, then you'll already know that the only real way to get consistent results is with consistent effort over a long period of time. If you do that, those things will become a habit, and then those habits become autonomous, and they require very little effort to get results. Now, I get through a lot of stuff every week, but it's actually rare for me to feel motivated to do any of it. I consider myself to be very driven and determined, but I am not a motivated person. And when I am, it lasts for about 10 minutes and it's gone. So if motivation is a waste of time, what's the answer? There's two alternative things that you actually need. Number one is momentum, and number two is purpose. So if we start with the latter, purpose. Now, it's been proven time and time again that knowing why you're doing something is vital for long-term sustained effort. Having a why is the emotional fuel that you need to persist, because getting somewhere and achieving things isn't easy. But having that why is far more powerful than any motivation. It's the real raw reasons why you want what you want. And that's the thing that's going to drive you forward when you want to quit and when things get tough, because inevitably they will. And the funny thing is, the why is never what you originally thought it would be. It's always something deeply profound and tied directly to a feeling that you want to have. Because everything we do in life is to feel something. We buy things because of how it makes us feel. We eat because of how it makes us feel. We set goals and we work on them, not for the end result, but for what those results are going to make us feel. So knowing what the real driving force is really important. And once you have that, then it's a case of creating momentum, because momentum beats motivation every time. So the thing with momentum is it's like time. It's a moving entity. It's always going forwards, and it will rise and it will drop. It'll have peaks and troughs as it moves forwards, but it's always moving. And if you can create steady upward trends in your momentum, then you're going to get results. So how can you actually create momentum? Well, I do it through something called action stacking, which is essentially doing one thing on top of another on top of another. So you're building a set of actions up to something bigger. There's a really famous analogy about a teacher asking kids to fill a jar with a bunch of big rocks, some small pebbles, and a load of sand. And they all try and they can't get everything in. And he explains that in order to do it, you've got to put the big rocks in first, then the small pebbles, and then you've got to fill the cracks with the sand. And that's how you get it in. If you do it the other way around, the big pieces won't fit. And that is a great way of looking at prioritizing tasks in order of importance. But it doesn't always work that way, especially for me. I prefer the analogy of little hinges swing big doors. So when I look at a big task, I naturally feel overwhelmed, and I can guarantee that if I feel like that, I'm going to procrastinate on it. But if I start with something small, then I will build momentum, and I will keep building on that momentum. I will gain in confidence, and those little wins will keep pushing me forwards until I can tackle the bigger thing. Either way, it works. But I'd have you consider doing the things that bring you the most momentum, the things that feel like a win. And it's not an excuse to just do random shit, because it still has to be relevant. And it's really important to note that 20% of your actions lead to 80% of your results. So focus in, find the small tasks that support the bigger ones to make it more manageable. So what I like doing is to take one thing that is quite a big thing and break it down into a series of small tasks, and then work my way up until you complete the final thing, and then that's it done. So to summarize today, it's a case of forgetting about motivation and to focus on purpose and momentum, because momentum is massive. So your call to action today is to write down one of your big scary goals, something that you really want but you've been putting off, and then just break it down into 3 simple actions that you could do to start making progress on that. So as always, there's going to be some show notes up on my blog at 𝐓𝐞𝐬𝐬𝐧𝑠. I've got lots of really great things coming for you in the next few weeks. There's going to be some live training, some free challenges, and all kinds of stuff to help you start living limitlessly. If there are any questions or any topics you'd like me to cover, just reach out and let me know. Send me a direct message. Other than that, have a nice evening, and I will see you soon.